I'm Darius Vaskelis, CEO of Sakonent. We're a CRM 2.0 consultancy. So we basically work with sales, marketing, and customer service companies, largely in the United States, doing consulting work up front around strategy and process, implementation of CRM software systems and support of those, and then the long-term outsourcing to help companies keep them running. I'm in Karachi because we have really our engine of the company here in Karachi, an international development center, where we have over 50 consultants that are doing the work for our US clients. The last 1 year has been sort of an inflection point in a lot of different ways. Probably the largest thing is the maturing of cloud-based CRM solutions, which are leading cloud in a lot of different ways. Largely that's been from Salesforce.com. They're clearly the leaders in cloud-based CRM, and they have gone upmarket and are even changing the focus of their company from just doing CRM to being more of an IT platform. I think the other thing that's happened is that there's been a lot of pent-up demand. And what I mean by that is that sort of a combination of two things has driven the CRM market. One is that the recession that has curtailed a lot of IT spending, particularly on net new projects and new implementations, is generally viewed as ending. And the question is how much growth and how fast. So people that weren't spending any money, based on their results in Q4 now, and based on how results will turn out in Q1 of 2011, are starting to definitely spend more. And during the year, they've sort of anticipated this coming. The tied to that pent-up demand that I mentioned is as companies are recovering, largely on an economic basis, they are looking at CRM as something that's going to help them manage their demand more effectively. It's all about been cutting costs for the past few years. This year was the start of thinking about driving revenues. And that has changed CRM to the point where people are now not only investing in CRM, where before it was sort of the minimum, just cobbled together infrastructure that gets you by. I think over the past year it's changed where we're starting to see a bias towards much larger companies doing much larger CRM engagements. So even the face of Sakonent has changed where our clients are now larger companies doing much larger CRM projects. We've started to refer to 2011 as the return of big CRM. Companies like Siebel returning to the marketplace that largely hadn't had sort of those types of enterprise engagements in quite some time. It's interesting. Our basis of looking at Pakistan has largely been operational. So can we find the right resources to act as CRM consultants in this marketplace? So if we're thinking about what's the applicability of CRM in Pakistan, I think almost the same types of things that are driving the recovery in the United States will eventually happen here. Historically, we've seen Pakistan trail economically what's happening in the West, particularly the United States. Depending on the industry and the sector, it might be as short as an 8-month gap between what's happening in the US and Pakistan. It could be as much as 24 months. If that's the case, then the economic conditions in Pakistan are highly likely to improve in the future. And if other types of things that are focused around stability and removing some of the economic uncertainty around Pakistan, which is it's palpable, every conversation centers around that. Whether that's political reform, whether that's political change, whether that's something entirely different that other experts can predict a lot better than I could, those two factors together of an end of a recession and the start of some kind of political changes could act as a bit of a supercharger to Pakistan's economy. If that happens, the management of demand is going to be in focus everywhere. And as companies need to grow, they'll definitely have to start looking at how do I manage sales, marketing, and customer service. I think part of the challenge with Pakistan doing this is that a lot of the economy has been driven by things other than market factors, particularly around IT, government work, and things like that. And this will largely be something new to the market, and particularly being able to jump in with very, very, very mature technologies. I think we have a unique opportunity by being in Pakistan, and it's based on the type of work that Sakonent does. And I'll use a couple of analogies which are flawed, as all analogies tend to be. But India has done an exceptional job of building out an IT infrastructure, building out developers for what I will call a software factory. It's really unfair in a lot of different ways, and I know companies, including some of my former employers, that had very major offshore operations in India would kind of bristle at that term. But the reality of most offshore development, regardless of how sexy the marketing is that people gather requirements by saying, what do you want this system to do? And then they look at the software and they make it do it. And there's this wall between the United States or the developed country and India or the developing country, where they throw those specifications over and they build a part. Not unlike building something out of textiles or building a part for a car. It just happens to be a piece of software. There's communications issues and there's various things that can be done to make this process more efficient, but it is essentially just lowering the cost of labor of manufacturing. It just happens to be IT in this case. India has done a fantastic job in building that, and if that's what we were doing, maybe we would go to India. You know, we'd be the 40,000th company doing that in India, but it's not what we're doing. In our case, we're trying to take and elevate the type of work to a different level. We don't really focus on development, we focus on consulting. We don't think of our employees as developers, we think of them as consultants. CRM projects, the type of projects that impact sales, marketing, and customer service, tend to have much more uncertainty of what the needs are. And if you ask people what they want, they'll give you a list. After it's delivered, it'll largely be incorrect. But in that destination, you've learned a few things. If that's the way you deliver a project, here's the specs, here's your system, I'm unhappy, let's do it again, people will be unhappy and not hire you. You have to get it right the first time. That's the primary difference of implementing an ERP system, largely stable requirements. Where there's instability, it's just because something's unknown, and a CRM system where my change in requirements is due to the fact that I have to get people to use the system and adopt it because they have a choice. A salesperson doesn't have to enter their opportunities. They'll find a way to sell things anyway. A marketing person doesn't have to measure the effectiveness of their campaigns in the CRM system. So when you do CRM work, it's a much more iterative process that requires interactions with business people, understanding the requirements, their goals, what they're trying to do. If the offshore consultants don't understand that, they won't deliver a system that ultimately works. If the offshore consultants aren't involved in the requirements gathering, the designing, the very iterative nature of what makes CRM projects successful, then you can't really offshore it effectively and have it work right the first time. By focusing on that type of offshoring in Pakistan, in some ways inventing new processes that don't exist really in places that are mature IT offshore, such as India, Pakistan has the ability to jump into offshore in a new way, leapfrogging what India has built as a base. An analogy that I really like is cell phones and the mobile industry in the United States. The United States went through 7 or 8 generations of technologies before we landed on the current 4G networks that are being built out there. And anyone who's used a cellular phone in the United States versus even the developing world recognizes that telephones in the US tend to be not quite as reliable as they are in Europe or in Asia. You drop calls in the US, that doesn't happen. The main reason for that is there's been so much competition, so much chaos as people learn from one technology to another, and one carrier in one level, another carrier in another level, that these networks haven't been quite as reliable. When the developing world got mobile phones for the first time, they leaped in right at the most advanced technology stage, and there's no reason to use that. In the end, having a more effective, more reliable cellular network than people in the United States, the most highly developed country, have. I think Pakistan has that same chance when it comes to IT offshore consulting. India has really paved the ground and has really had these successive generations of how to make offshore consulting better, but they've done it in this paradigm that I think most companies that do it would disagree with me by saying a software factory, but if you scratch under the surface, that's exactly what it is. By trying to build offshore consultants, business analysts with MBAs, focused on working with American clients as assistants, not the people driving the requirements, tying them into the development process where they're managing those requirements through a development cycle, trying to understand if it's going to improve my sales metrics, my marketing metrics. Will the sales users use it? Will the customer service people be effective with it? Changes the dynamic greatly. I think it's the future of outsourcing and offshore IT consulting. In 10 years, it'll be the norm. And because Pakistan is getting to it late, you get to do it better before anybody else does it. And that's exactly the kind of work we're doing today. Well, we are looking for IT guys. We're also looking for business people. So it's sort of these two parallel paths that do come together when you start managing projects and managing engagements. The IT folks are largely not different than what you might see in an Indian outsourcing center, in that they have to have a fairly good command of the English language, have communication skills. We provide additional training on top of that, as a lot of companies do. And they have to have a good problem-solving IT background. Largely, though, we train them. As a matter of fact, the more they've worked in the local Pakistan environment, the less likely they are at being able to cut it with us, because we're holding them to American productivity standards, and we continue to hold them to American productivity standards. These types of people are actually not that hard to find in this marketplace. If we just look at Karachi, a city of 18 million or more people, depending on who you talk to, it's a very large base from multiple universities of highly educated people, some with experience at multinationals, some coming right at college, who are looking for something far more challenging and better experience than just being a very small cog doing repetitive work at a large company. Our challenge in recruiting people ends up that they look at us as being either unknown or unstable because we're unknown. And even things that in the United States would be positive, we've had exponential growth over the past year. We had a handful of employees, and it's now over 50 in Karachi. That's viewed as a negative. You're growing too fast. That means they're just going to show up and lay off in a few months. In the United States, that type of growth is an exciting, challenging environment where I'm going to learn new things. And really, I think it's giving us an opportunity to work and hire in a way that's unique and new, and the people that recognize the value of that have an entirely new perspective on their careers when they work with us, because they can do almost anything in the future. The biggest problem, honestly, is a great problem to have. So last year, our problem was finding the right types of clients, enough clients to fuel the growth that we needed in order to achieve our goals. I talked a lot about the kind of work that Sakonent does and the work we do for clients. Someone once gave me an analogy that said a consulting firm, a good consulting firm, is like a shark. If it stops swimming, it will die. A really good consulting firm has to grow in order to have productivity growth really solved as part of how it operates. So we sort of reverse engineered what would be the perfect CRM consultancy, and this year was essentially a test. Can we grow it and can we make it happen? The growth that we could do next year is significantly in excess of the growth we could manage. So our biggest challenge is really finding that right amount of growth where we are fueling and getting the benefits of growth and having an interesting place to work and doing great work for our clients that's high value, but not growing so fast that we lose control of our processes. Right now, we largely have it, and I think our largest management challenge is going to be managing that growth. Last year, that wasn't the kind of thing we thought about. It was just growth at all costs. And now it's with the rational amount of growth so that we can have an environment where we can deliver the best kind of projects for our clients. I briefly said that 2011 is the return of enterprise CRM, the return of big CRM. I think that's going to reshape the marketplace really drastically. Salesforce.com showed that businesses of any size can benefit from CRM, and they've had a remarkable success in the very small companies having 5 to 10 seats of CRM. They built most of their company using those types of clients. As they've gone upstream, the needs of companies in enterprise CRM changed drastically. So I actually think we're coming up to sort of a head-to-head battle of the resurgence of enterprise CRM with the traditional leader of Siebel, now owned by Oracle, and Salesforce.com. And the benefits that both companies bring to the table are drastically different. Salesforce.com is built on a very modern infrastructure, a very modern platform, and is essentially the poster child for cloud computing. Siebel is a stable platform, 15-year-old, robust, known commodity with very deep, rich functionality across a lot of industries. Salesforce is bought primarily by sales, marketing executives that are looking around what's an easy way to get into the space of implementing a CRM system. Siebel appeals to people that are looking for features, functionality, little pieces. Neither is right and wrong for everybody. There's a different answer, and there's new entrants coming up trying to really play in that space as well. I don't know what's going to happen. I think that that this type of environment where large CRM is coming back with new companies. We work with a company called Blackbaud that's the leader in not-for-profit CRM, essentially fundraising software. As they even compete with Siebel and Salesforce for these large projects, it pushes each of them to be better in different ways, and they have different answers. I think for us, we just need to be sort of the experts at the business layer. If we can work with a salesperson, a marketing person, a customer service person, and help them achieve their goals, we can treat the commodity of technology as a commodity and use that portion of every project as we'll just find the best tool for the job, kind of making them feel better about a selection and reducing their risks and reducing the stress of helping figure out what's the right software to do it.